Whew. Good evening, Philadelphia Eagles fans, and good evening, NFL fans, to week 2 here in Philadelphia, where this week our team comes home, tries to bounce back from a defeat to Washington against the LA football Rams in Philadelphia, 1 o'clock Sunday afternoon. Actually, I had to redo this video because I used the Washington's football old team name, and that's no longer true. But what is true right now, Washington is leading the NFC East. I didn't think I was going to say that after week 1, but it's true. And I have to give hats off to the Washington football team and their fans because they flat out beat us. In the beginning, it didn't look like so. It looked like we were going to come out and be the team that everybody put us on paper saying we're going to just drive through people, even with like Lane Johnson being out and our running back Miles Sanders being out. We still looked really good, beating them through the air with our tight ends and building a 17-0 lead to hopefully just cruise right into a victory and look forward to the next week here against the Rams. Well, that didn't happen. And what happened to us last year, losing by 17, and then coming back and beating Washington. Washington did the same thing to us. You have to give them credit. They played 60 minutes of football. We didn't. We did, but we had our injuries. Washington, led by Ryan Kerrigan, their defense, like I always say, and the guy always shows up against us, got pressure on the quarterback with 8 sacks. Carson Wentz started trying to make a lot of things happen, led into interceptions and short fields, and Washington took advantage of that. Ended up scoring 14 points off of that, and scoring 27 unanswered points, and we ended up losing 27-17. Giants losing, Dallas losing, which means though, the NFC East right now looks like Washington on top and everybody else following. Yes, a lot was put on Carson Wentz. Not to make any excuses, because I don't. There's no preseason. Somebody has to win the game. No preseason, but he looked very, very off after that first little push. Looked off of his timing with wide receivers, and his deep ball did not do well. Our play calling was not as creative as it could be, and we're going to go to that in a second. Excuse me. Because without, like Lane Johnson being on the offensive line, and without Miles Sanders and some other running backs that we have, because we were very injured, didn't seem like we got creative with what we had in order to come up with a game plan that didn't put so much on Carson Wentz, which we're going to learn a lot about playing against the Rams. The Rams are a very straightforward team. Okay, that was interesting. The Rams are a very straightforward team. The Rams have Woods and Kupp as the wide receivers, and they get passed to like that all the time from Jared Goff. Then they've always had a big running back. Now they have Brown. He rushed pretty decent against Dallas last week. Thank you, the Rams, for beating Dallas. But if you get to Jared Goff, kind of like getting to Carson Wentz, we've had a lot of success against this team. Actually, if you look at it, we've beaten this team the last 15 years. Like straight. Like the last time they beat us was actually, I think, in like December 2004. We can't rest on old accomplishments. Because something that they do, and something I think we should pick up on and add into our repertoire, is use our wide receivers in the running game, which is something I would hope that we would do more, losing as much as we have with our running backs, to utilize all those wide receivers that we have that have special teams in their resume anyway. Jalen Reagor and Deshaun Jackson, Hightower and Watkins, all these wide receivers that we have, and Greg Ward, they can all play special teams, which means they all have a level of experience running the ball in some way or fashion. So get the ball in their hand one way or the other and keep the defense honest up at the line of scrimmage, and then we have enough burners to get behind them, and hopefully Carson Wentz can hit a couple deep in order to stretch the field and keep their defense honest on all aspects so we don't become very predictable. And I think that's exactly what happened when we played against Washington. But here's some of my final thoughts for this game, right? We can pontificate all sorts of stuff, but in the end, we just have to play a game in an empty stadium for right now. A lot of talk, and I kind of leave a lot of this out on purpose because I want to talk just football for the most part. But there's a lot of talk, especially what's going on in the beginning of the game with the national anthem and the different anthems that are being played out there. People showing up, not taking a knee, staying in the locker room, all that mess. Along with the same kind of mentality when the Eagles lose the first game. People are already talking about benching Carson Wentz. Really? For Jalen Hurts? Really? After one game? Like, somebody does one thing that is not that great and you want to like ship them off already? This is what we're kind of talking about with cancel culture nowadays. We see this just in playing the game of football, let alone any politics that happen. Desirable, undesirable, I don't care. Like, think about the mentality that goes along with it. Yeah, things are not going to be perfect, but that's why I always point back to the 2017 football season where there's a lot of things that happened that were imperfect, but a strong football team, a strong nation, strong fans, strong people in general find a way to get through and win. Even when we have a couple setbacks that are undesirable. So yeah, week 1 was undesirable. Losing to Washington is undesirable like all the time. But it still happened. How are you going to respond to it as a football team and as a fan base? Things are happening during this anthem stuff and people are responding different ways. How are you going to respond to it as a football team and as a fan base? Reason why I have a purpose here and continuing on to do this, regardless of what my political views are and my service in the military and all that other mess like that, is to be an influence. Saying, you know what? We're going to figure this out together. We're going to have a game plan, and when that game plan doesn't work, we're going to change that game plan until we find something that does, so we can move forward together as a family in this city. And that is exactly what I expect for my Eagles to do this Sunday against the LA Football Rams. Come up with a game plan that works. Come up with whoever decides to show up on that field for whatever time while the clock is ticking, and come up with a game plan to beat the LA Football Rams and get back into a place where we can lead the NFC East, get into the playoffs, and hopefully bring another trophy here to Philadelphia. Let's go Birds!